I would love to introduce today's guest. I would like to get a word from everybody. So, starting with Nir-san, can I get a quick intro from you?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for joining. My name is Nir. I'm the founder of the Artian, and I teach business artistry at IE Business School.
Thank you. Sonal-san, can I get a quick intro from you as well?
Hello, everybody. And thank you for joining. I am the founder of the Table and Gallery in Iron Art Films, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And then finally, Nakamura-san, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Thank you for attending tonight. My name is Tomoe Nakamura. I'm the former president of GLOBIS USA. I am currently working at GLOBIS headquarters in Tokyo. I am very looking forward to this seminar. Thank you.
And with that taken in mind, I would love to pass the ball over to Nir-san for his keynote speech.
Great. Thank you very much. 1 second. Let me make sure that I'm sharing my screen and you actually can see it. Do you see the right slides? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so first of all, good afternoon or good morning. In my case, it's 2 a.m. in the morning in Madrid, but I'm super excited about speaking about a word that I just learned, Kokorozashi. Basically, living with your own passion and meaning and actually making an impact in the world. I find it beautiful kind of a word to have. So first of all, thank you for the GLOBIS team and Tomaya-san for inviting me. What I'm going to kind of do is actually try and speak with you about this topic, the intersection of art and business, maybe art and entrepreneurship, art and technology. And I always like to start by a short disclaimer. I'm not here to convince anyone in this relationship. I'm not here to sell you this idea. I do want to offer to maybe you would ask yourself at the end, what are the opportunities of possibilities that we might have if we will connect those disciplines? Because it seems to me that as a society, we got used to think that there is only one way of kind of thinking, the linear, analytical, cyclical way of thinking, that we forgot that maybe there is another way, the harmony or the balance, whatever you want to call it. So every time I kind of speak about art in business or art thinking in business, obviously that's type of the responses that I get. I mean, are you joking? They are not connected. And I try to understand why, and I think I figured it out. And I call it the butterfly effect. And why I call it the butterfly effect? Because if I would have asked you to draw a butterfly, which normally I do in my keynotes, oftentimes, immediately, we tend to think about this type of butterfly. Very beautiful, very accurate. But in reality, most of us draw like this. And, you know, one of the things I like to do is actually collect all the drawings of the butterflies that people actually do around the world. Now, immediately, when you think about this kind of a butterfly, it invites this way of thinking. I don't know how to draw. I'm not creative. Art is not for me. And when you enter a museum and you see this type of painting, you say, okay, what is this? I mean, I can do that. Maybe my 4 years old son, brother, nephew can do that. But when you look at this type of drawing, you say, okay, that's someone that knows to master the tools. But the one that actually entered into the history books was Jackson Pollock, not necessarily his brother, Charles Pollock, because he offered a new way of creating, a new way of experiencing art. Now, if you look at this type of painting, you would say, okay, that's a great master. I mean, you know, you can see the drama and the pain and the suffering in the painting. But the reason, you know, Pablo Picasso is none of those paintings. The reason, you know, Picasso is because of the invention of Cubism. He offered a different way of seeing art. And when I looked at all those type of examples, I realized at least one fundamental misunderstanding that I had about art. I thought that art is an object, but art is not an object. Art is a way of thinking. The manifestation of this way of thinking is the object. Now, oftentimes people ask me what led you to do what I do. So I don't know about you, but I was really passionate about art and design and architecture. But at the same time, as a kid, I also had business side hustles, and I really loved entrepreneurship and technology and business. And society, my teachers, my professors, my parents, everyone asked me, Nir, honey, what are you? Left brain, right brain, creative, analytic. You want to study engineering and art. You cannot do both. And in my 20s, even though I kind of chose the entrepreneurial path, I read one day an article that kind of articulated what I felt. And the main message was that entrepreneurs are the artists of the business world. So as I mentioned at the beginning, everything that I do, whether it is in consulting, keynote speaking, in teaching, sits in these two intersections of what I call imagination and execution, art and business. Now, when it comes to the art thinking, I always try to understand where does it meet the world of business. And there are a few ways that I see that it meets the business world. First of all, I think that art is a mindset and a skill set. Okay, and maybe it's worth having a whole different conversation about the skill set. But for the sake of our conversation, I want to speak about two things, two angles that I think art meets business immediately, which is leadership and innovation. And in order to kind of maybe start with the concept of maybe leadership, I want to show a quick video. Let me know if you hear the voice when I play. Just do with your fingers like this, so at least I know I shared the sound.
So I've said this before. I thought it was worth repeating. It's in Apple's DNA that technology alone is not enough. That it's technology married with liberal arts, married with the humanities, that yields us the result that makes our hearts sing.
Now, I think this is kind of a very beautiful short video that shows something very fundamental that these type of leaders that I'm speaking about understand. The technology always changes. It's not about the technology. It's something much more deeper. And obviously, Steve Jobs is the epitome of this way of thinking, but he's not the only one. When I got into that, I tried to understand who are the leaders that actually lead differently, with creative vision, with intuition, that have this deep respect, love, and connection to the arts. And there are many more leaders that actually lead that way. It's just that we got used to think about leadership as a certain way. And these leaders that have this connection and passion and respect for the art actually go and build very creative companies, and the way they lead is very different. And that's what I've been doing, dedicating my life, trying to understand how they do it so we can offer a different way of leadership. And I will give you maybe one example from leadership and then one example from what I mean innovation, and then in the Q&A we can dive deeper. So I always say that my generation, I don't know the average age in the room here, but my generation remembered that was the internet. We used to go to the portal, and in the portal, we used to have the movies and the horoscope and the weather and sports and search and email, etc. And the trajectory of the portal industry was one: bigger, busier, flashier. The more you have, the better it is. But then in '98, a small startup came and actually changed it. One line, one function, one page. Now, while Yahoo perfected it to this, Google perfected it to this. Now, obviously, Google has great technology behind. But what Google also did is that they changed the way we perceive what a website should look like. And the woman that oversaw the design of Google as we know it today is a woman called Marissa Mayer. And Marissa Mayer was the number 20 employee at Google. She was the first female engineer in the company. When she graduated from Stanford, she had 13 jobs offers from the top companies in the world. But I always say that these are the tangible things we know about Marissa Mayer, who actually oversaw the design of Google as we know it. In a conversation, they ask her, what led you to connect the power of design with the power of the internet? I want you to listen what she had to say about it.
I wish I could say that it's me, but it's not. And there's two people who deserve a lot more credit in that, which is that my mother's an art teacher and my father's an engineer. And the cross product of that is someone who really loves technology. I wasn't as good an artist as my mother is, so she taught me a lot about art history and a lot about respect for art and design, but really seeing how engineering and art aren't all that different, and that there's a lot of symmetry between the two disciplines, and engineering that isn't beautiful has its drawbacks, and art that isn't engineered also in some ways is less interesting. And so for me, it was always part of my life growing up. The two just always coexisted, because they coexisted in my family and in my role models.
So I don't think I've ever had anyone said that before. So engineering and art aren't that different?
So entrepreneurs are the artists of the business world, and engineering and art aren't that different. And I can give you many more examples of those kind of leaders that have this affinity and passion for the arts and speak about how it influenced them. It's very easy for us to get caught by the tangible things. And one of the things that it made me reflect is that why we tend to think about success only as the way that which school you went, where did you grow up, which company you worked for, which, by the way, are very important things that can change someone's life. But if that's the recipe that everyone in a way can follow, how come we don't see more innovative and creative people? Maybe, just maybe, it's just an offering. Maybe it's not only about the tangible things you gain. Maybe it's also the intangible things. For that matter, your passion, your interest, your curiosity. Maybe for me it's art, maybe for you it's something different. And there is one thing that I also learned about seeing all these people in the business world. We tend to think there are creative companies. Frankly speaking, I don't believe there is creative companies. They don't exist. It's a myth. You know why? Because what I saw is that there are only innovative and creative people who build innovative and creative companies. Every time you see a creative company, you will see a last name, a first name and a last name behind it. Maybe there are multiple first name and last name, but it's always the individuals that set a creative vision and committed to follow it. So if leadership in a way kind of give us maybe the arching kind of idea, many ways that it come and manifestate itself is innovation. Now, there are two ways that I tackle it, is that, as I mentioned, one is leadership, but one is art as a source for innovation. Because in business, we tend to think that the source for innovation is business or science. But I think we are missing a huge opportunity over here. And one of the things that I love about artists is that very often they imagine the unimaginable. They're offering us the opportunity to imagine or experience things that we didn't think we could. And one of the mistakes that I did, I don't know about you, just as I told you before, I thought that art is an object. Very often when people used to tell me artist, immediately I thought about a painter or a musician. But then when I started to dive into this topic, what I realized is actually paint is just a medium. And I like to say that artists are humans. And if they are humans, they respond to everything that is around them. Whether it is quantum technology, whether it is voice recognition, whether it is the body or nanotechnology, etc. Everything can be a medium for an artist. And I want to give you an example for technological invention. In 1970, in Osaka, Japan, Pepsi want to participate. They participating in Expo, and they want to create experiential pavilion. So they invite a group of artists and engineers called EAT, Experiments in Art and Technology. And one of the things this group want to do is actually cover the pavilion. Now, the way they wanted to cover it was actually with fog. So they reached out to a Japanese artist, which her name is Fujiko Nakaya. And Fujiko Nakaya works with fog as a way to create experiences. Now, it's 1970, okay? To create fog in artificial whale, that's a chemical process. To do something at that scale, it's not the best for humans. So Fujiko Nakaya insisted it has to be friendly, it has to be environmental, it has to serve people. But the technology didn't exist. So she paired up with an engineer from San Francisco called Thomas Mee, and over 6 months, traveling 6 months, 8 months, traveling between Tokyo and San Francisco, they were actually able to invent the first water-based electricity connected artificial fog machine. And they were able to cover the pavilion, but what's interesting is that actually it became technology that's being used today in cooling system, in agriculture, in manufacturing, etc. And if you travel to Japan, you might see some of Fujiko Nakaya's work. Some of the photos that I added also took place in Pier 13 in San Francisco, and she used it as a way to create experiences. And there are many, many more examples for technological innovations that we are using and we don't even know that started in the arts. And it made me realize that again, we tend to think about art as the imagination, the creativity, the inspiration, and business, it's like the efficiency and productivity and profit. And I wondered, why is it so? And then I realized that if in business we always strive for efficiency, what do you need to do? Very often you need to improve. What did we do last year? How can we make it better? What succeeded in the last campaign? How can we do it better? So you very often look to the past in order to create it. But in art, it doesn't work. I cannot just copy other artists and hopefully people will buy my work. In art, you always need to kind of look to the future and create it. Now, the thing is that that's not to say that one way of thinking is better than the other, that business is better than art and art is better than business. It's just to say that there is so much room for collaboration that we can benefit from it. So we are getting very quickly to the end. One of the things I always like to say, remember, I started this with this kind of image. I'm not here to say we need to replace. I'm here to say, let's find a different harmony. Each one of us will have their own. You want to call it your own balance? What works for you might not work for others. But I want to kind of leave you maybe with the 3 things to think about. Creativity is welcome. Steve Jobs proved it. Marissa Mayer proved it. Jim McKelvey at Square proved it. Brian Chesky at Airbnb proved it. Ivan Spiegel at Snap proved it. Walt Disney proved it. They took creativity and their affinity with the arts and leveraged it to their own superpower. So don't sideline, for that matter, your creative interest or practice. The second thing that I kind of touched upon is that today, I don't know, obviously, any of you in the room, I don't know what is your role, I don't know what you do in life, but oftentimes as an individuals, we need to find this harmony. But very often you will also be in a managerial position and the team will follow your kind of leading by example. And you will need to find a way to balance or the harmony between administration of business to invention of business, originality and mastery, between execution and imagination. It's not only one way. And as a leader, you are the one that will demonstrate it. The third thing that why I think it's so important, I'm maybe naive or maybe look at it as a romantic, but I really believe that our creations are a testament to our values. And I always keep, I don't know if you can see, but I keep the first iPod that I bought in 2003. Okay? Because obviously it doesn't function, but it serves as a reminder what you can achieve if you try to actually have a creative vision that put human at the end of it. Which kind of lead me to the last, maybe a final thought. For so long, we have been pursuing kind of engineering-driven thinking. Maybe, just maybe, I don't think I have all the answers. Maybe by actually pursuing only one way of thinking, we are limiting our potential. That yes, we might create new, but it's not necessarily better. What I realized when I researched all these great minds is that they always had this connection to the art world, to the artistic kind of environment, and they understood something very important. It's never about technology. It's not about humans serving technology. It's technology serving people. And they realize that technology will always change. And technological excellence won't help you if you get the human story wrong. And engineering gives us the functionality and the productivity and the error reduction that we need. Art gives us storytelling, emotions, human connection. And I truly believe that the most remarkable innovations happen when those two forces work together. When art meet, when execution meet imagination, when storytelling meet strategy, when art meet business. And I believe that the future of leadership, for that matter, will belong to the one that actually adopt what I call business artistry. This way of mindset that understand that we need to connect both, that to lead not only with data, sometimes you will need intuition, that yes, we will need to put a creative vision, not only technological goals. And by so doing, you can actually build high-performing organization that at the same time will be deeply human. Because I always kind of think about that engineering creates functionality. Art creates meaning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nir-san. The harmony part at the end really hit hard for me, the second point that you made, but no, it was amazing. Everybody might have some questions. Please write them down. We'll have a Q&A at the end, but Sonal-san, you're up next.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Nir, thank you, because this is the part where I say I'm not crazy anymore. And I'm really grateful to be here. And I'm going to share my presentation. I founded the Table and Gallery. So I grew up in the hospitality industry, and I'm an artist and I'm a filmmaker. And prior to finding the space, I went on a sabbatical, and it was telling myself that I would never return to the restaurant industry. It became toxic, and I lost myself, and I wanted to recreate a different life. And as a result, the Table and Gallery was born. And as a filmmaker, alongside it, I also established Fine Art Films to highlight the storytelling aspect. Now, prior to starting the Table and Gallery, I went to a Holy Kitchen because I love their food. And in that Holy Kitchen, my intention was to learn the recipe. But instead, what turned out to being just one day, I'm going to volunteer and learn the recipe, and that's it. I ended up devoting a year's worth of time in that Holy Kitchen amongst monks, and understanding that you could communicate non-verbally. We were smiling with our eyes, and they created a peaceful environment. And I really soaked that in, and I realized that the kitchen can be a safe space. So I adopted that method when I found the Table and Gallery. And when I saw the kitchen, I said, the kitchen is going to be a safe space. And food is an act of nourishment. So I was absolutely terrified opening the Table and Gallery. I knew I had guests coming and I had to feed people. So it started with me. how was I going to overcome my anxiety and my PTSD of being in the kitchen? So the prominent color of my artwork is gold. And when I visited Japan, I learned the method of kintsugi, and it is repairing broken ceramics with gold lacquer. And I found that story so beautiful. And so gold became a prominent color. And I said, you know, I'm going to do something that's going to connect the color gold with the dining experience. So when I went to the kitchen and I looked around and I said, what is a color that's going to resemble gold? And I saw saffron, I saw turmeric, and my shoulders went down, and I was able to look at the plate and say, this is my canvas. And now I'm going to tell story through food, and it is going to become another form of art for me. And that's when the storytelling aspect came. People would gather around the table. We would talk about the food, what nourished my soul in the process of creating. I would talk about what influenced them, what inspires them. And it became a communal place where storytelling was in the forefront behind these creative forces. Now, keep in mind, I loved art growing up, but my father said, art's not going to pay your bills. I love you, Dad. But I'm grateful for the opportunity of going to business school, because now I'm able to connect both business and art together at the table and gallery. And uniting my skills. So as I mentioned, growing up in the restaurant industry with my passion for the arts was to craft a unified multi-sensory story. And the kitchen is the core of nourishment. It's a way that I not only prepare food, but I was able to transform raw emotions into peace and balance, and turning hunger into care. And for me, it was also a way to heal and transform my life. And I was able to rewrite the old narratives, those limited beliefs, the conditioned thoughts that, you know, you have to run business this way and focus on monetizing. And it all started with a mindset and working in my inner world. And in order to do that, I really had to go within. And while I was going within, I was able to adopt mindful practices and realizing that purpose-driven businesses do exist, but it has to start with yourself first. And being immersed. So I like to say it's a multi-sensory immersive experience. We were first immersed in the womb with all the 5 senses of sight, sound, hear, feel, touch. And it gave us a sense of security. And for me, I wanted to highlight this same feeling in the table and gallery, that how could I bring this experience where I'm uniting all the 5 senses. So here we have music, we have art and food. So it's bringing that experience back of being immersed, uniting all the 5 senses, that's invoking positive emotions. And, you know, as a founder and entrepreneur, sometimes I need inspiration. And I was invited to speak to 150 women incarcerated. And it was a year and a half of me opening the business. And I said, okay, I'm going to fly down to Lockhart, Texas, and I'm going to speak to this women, because if I can do it, I know that they can do it too. And here's a picture of me. And, you know, the funny thing is they were inspired by my story, but it's actually the other way around. I wanted to be inspired by their story, and their inspiration fueled me to continue on, even if it meant having 2 hours of sleep, because I was grateful for the opportunity of having the freedom to make the choices that I'm making. And with that, when I work with artists, I'm very mindful of not just highlighting the art, but highlighting the message behind the art. So I have 4 exclusive artists with the table and gallery, and they each highlight climate awareness, mental health, sustainability, and their personal stories of transformation. And I'm highlighting Camilla Young. And when I connected with these artists, I wasn't looking for them. It happened through synchronicity. It happened through my inner world and understanding, okay, I want to really leave a message behind highlighting that there's a reason why they're doing art. It's not just because it's beautiful, but there was something that influenced them and transformed them in the process. So I have Camilla Young. She's a climate artist and environmental storyteller. And she's using her work to turn abstract crisis into human urgency. And my next artist is Christopher Sellers, who's based out of Sydney, Australia. And he highlights mental health. And he's an amazing human being. And in the process of working alongside him and him highlighting photography, I was able to also understand how stories are told through a different lens. And that was through his photography. Sustainability. Now, Mr. Alan Carey, he found me, and all it took was me saying, oh, I love your work. And that moment of me believing in him, it skyrocketed his confidence to saying, okay, where can we go with this and what can we do? And it became a beautiful collaboration. Now, Nut, I have known during the pandemic, and in a quest to find myself and understand how I can connect back to art, I came across his artwork. And what happened as a simple email of just saying, you know, I was moved by your art. I found out that he learned how to create art while he was incarcerated for life. And he has a very powerful story, how art transformed his life while he was incarcerated. And now he is transforming not just human lives, but the lives of animals as well. And I like to say, you know, the Table and Gallery, it's more than an art space. It's a living ecosystem of creatives, entrepreneurs, change makers, those making an impact in our world. And the ability to highlight them and give them a platform to share their story is not just uplifting for the community, but it's uplifting for the individual and everyone that is a witness of their own evolution. And not only that, I'm a community builder. You know, you can't do anything without your community. So as a board member of the Boys and Girls Club, I strongly believe that the future is our youth, and creating safe places for them, giving them the resources that they need is so vital for not just our community, but for our global platform. And with that, I am really grateful that I have University of New Haven. Now, when you're an entrepreneur and a founder with just yourself, it's nothing greater than having the Helping Hands program to reach out and say, hey, we have some interns that might want to join you. And second year working with them, I have the most amazing interns at the Table and Gallery, and I'm grateful to them. And I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have the help of the local community and the Helping Hands program. And one of the interns, actually, she ended up having her capstone project. And I was really deeply moved by that because she said, I want to help you make money. And I said, okay, how's that? She said, I'm going to have the record label, one of the musicians, they're going to perform and we're going to sell tickets and we're going to pack this place up. And that's exactly what she did. Her professor came in from New York City to see how her capstone project was, attended the event, and she was just grateful that she passed with flying colors, but I was just grateful that this girl wants to help me monetize, but it was creatively done through her capstone project. So it was a win-win situation for all of us. And this is a repeat, so I apologize for that. But as I said, Boys and Girls Club supporting over 1,600 youths across New Haven, there's nothing empowering than having a resource where I am able to give back, because it's important that I see people around me thrive. And with that, when you see others thriving, it just lifts everybody up and gives them hope that you too can elevate your life and become something that you didn't think you could possibly be, but you have the support next to you. And one of our partners is Vista Life Innovations. Now, these students are very special to me, and they are intellectually challenged students. They are artists as well, amazing artists. And this was my first time meeting with them, and we sat around the table and I said, "So what's your story?" And they were so shy, and I had to break the ice and say, "Listen, please don't be shy, it's just me." And finally, they started talking about their exhibition, and their exhibition was called Metamorphosis. And I was telling them, I think I'm going to be going through a metamorphosis during this exhibition. And lo and behold, the table and gallery went through a very powerful transformation after that exhibition. So that clearly highlights how connected I become, not just with the exhibition, but with the art that's being exhibited. It becomes inherently part of me and part of the table and gallery story. And being an entrepreneur, I like to say I'm not just an entrepreneur for the city of New Haven, but a global entrepreneur. And that's thanks to my family, who had covered 4 continents. And in those 4 continents, they were able to teach me how to creatively handle socioeconomic and cultural barriers and challenges from Africa to Asia to Europe and to the US. And as a firstborn, I saw firsthand the challenges they faced and how they were able to adapt to each country and embrace the community and understand that you cannot do things alone. You need people next to you. It does take a village. And I have now adopted that method into the table and gallery. And the table and gallery is going on a global tour. So please stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonal-san. It was great to hear your story, and as somebody who used to work in the hospitality industry, I can hopefully sympathize a bit with you with the toughness of it. But Nakamura-san, do you want to take the ball now to the panel discussion?
Yeah. Maybe, Corey, do you want to show the picture of the 3 of us? And Sonal-san, do you want to drop maybe the website of the table and gallery on the chat box? I think our audience can connect to the table and gallery. Let me just start by how I met Sonal-san. We met in a Kokorozashi Seminar, this kind of seminar where I was talking about Japanese arts. And that's how we made the connection. I visited the table and gallery, and I was amazed to see what Sonal-san, what kind of space Sonal-san is creating. I was with a governor, a government official. I was with a school administrator. I was with a chef, a photographer, Camille-san that Sonal-san introduced, the climate artist. But the discussion was very deep. Everyone taking turns, not I, but collectively talking about what matters for New Haven and Connecticut. So Thank you for creating a wonderful space. First, I'd like to ask, please give me maybe 16 minutes for the panel. And I'd like to make it short, but I'd like to start from Nir-san. It's good if you have Steve Jobs. It's good if we have Melissa Mel. But for regular companies, we don't have a great, CEO who understands design. And in your book, I read that many companies are starting a system called Artist in Residence. What is Artist in Residence, and why are companies hiring artists for maybe 2 years, 3-year term?
Thank you for asking this question. I think the model of artist in residence kind of going under the radar, even though it exists for a long, long time. I would even claim going back to the Medicis. Artist in residence, think about it kind of as a concept in which it's taken from the cultural world, normally in which an institution will invite an artist for a period of few weeks or few months to actually go outside of the routine and interact with other artists. Companies understood that actually by inviting artists to work with their engineering team, with their product team, with their marketing team, they can actually foster a different way of thinking about their own culture that they are working in. Now, the concept of artist in residence already existed from in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Lockheed Martin used to have a famous one. RCA used to have a famous one. Bell Laboratories. The result that I showed you with Fujiko Nakaya is actually a spin-off that started in Bell Laboratories at the end of the 50s, beginning of the 60s. And today, actually, one of the residency that I'm kind of very familiar and help is actually the one at Google Quantum in Santa Barbara. Now, it's important to say that there are many different targets to artists in residence. Each company will work with artists differently. So Bell, let's take for that matter Xerox PARC in San Francisco. They wanted to explore the future of technology from different 2 points of view, the scientists and the artists. Okay? The Artist in Residence program at Google Quantum that happens today is actually how can we work with artists to build a culture of recognition? For example, what do I mean? Quantum as a technology is a very long kind of path that we are on, and we don't know if we will be able to solve it. So your successes as a scientist are taking place behind the scene. People don't know about them. So for example, in the residency in Santa Barbara, the artists actually create work with the scientists around the breakthrough. So in a way, they take the breakthrough and give it a visual language. But they also use it as a way to create visual language for engineers and scientists and physicists that everyone's come from different disciplines. The art become the platform that actually everyone understand what they are talking about. So obviously I can go much deeper to it, but I'll stop over here. But it happens, and there are many different types of residency, definitely to kind of explore this way of thinking.
Thank you.
I'll drop some links in the
chat box.
chat.
Thank you very much. I think as an audience, we understood artist in residence. But Nir-san, you are also teaching artistic thinking in a business school. Now,
Yes.
How do you teach business executives, artistic thinking? Because, it's easy to show a presentation, you can show a video, but can you elaborate a little bit how you open their mind or give them some skill set?
Yeah, it's let me tell you this. It's not an easy task I chose for myself, but I want to tell you something. What I try to do at least. First of all, I think that art is a way of operating in the world. Okay, so it's like how you approach things for me with intention and attention. What do you choose to pay attention to and put your focus on? And I think it's very important to have in mind over here. And I will mention a book, highly recommend reading it, called The Accidental Masterpiece by the New York Times art critic. That oftentimes you will see people that are not artists that are much more artful than artistic artists. Okay? Now, per your question, one of the things that I try to do is to offer them a different offer them a different kind of ways to think about certain action of leadership. I'll give you a concrete example.
Yep.
Brown, the shaver machine that we all know, Brown was one of the most innovative and creative companies in the history. People don't understand how innovative and creative they were. In the 50s, the CEO, Irving Brown, decided that he wants to have a different vision for the company, and that's a company that already generated $100 million in revenue back then, okay? So one of the things that he did, he actually hired a theater graduate to lead hardware department. And this theater graduate actually created different collaboration the company didn't have. So in my class, one of the things that I will do, I will give my students CV of the theater graduate, a CV of an engineer, as a CV of another kind of product manager, and I will ask them, who would you hire? 0% choose the theater graduate. And one of the things that I try to show them is that when you want to have a creative vision, oftentimes you will need to take risks and paths that are not that common. So I try to place them. My approach is much more experience-based. So I will take concrete example that I learned from the different leaders that I see, and I will bring it to the students and let them actually try to, what would you do in that sense? And by so doing, hopefully, I'm offering them opportunity to try and see that there are another way to do things. Not everything is about cost cutting or hiring one per profile to a certain role. I don't know if it makes sense.
Thank you very much. IE is very innovative. They're having a class on artistic thinking, and I wish many other business school can have a class with Professor Nir. Sonal-san, thank you for sharing your story. I think in a short time, we kind of understood your, personal journey as an artist, as an entrepreneur, and how you are changing, New Haven as a community. But what was some of the unexpected outcome that you are seeing after building the table and gallery?
The unexpected outcomes that I am experiencing is the connections that I'm forming. And with those connections, it's a problem that they are seeking to solve. And, for example, I had someone come in and say, my father passed away and I don't like my job, but I used to play music. Or I, had another individual say, I used to play art. How do I get back into it when I've spent so much time working in the corporate world? And now I'm saying, okay, I'm going to connect you with this person because I think this person can help you get back on track or give you the resources that you need. They're looking for a community of creatives to connect with other artists, with other creatives, and having the ability to have access to that is helping them transform their life. For example, I have a mechanical engineer who is an artist as well, and it helps them break up the structured mindset to something that they can dismantle creatively. And being around creatives inspires and motivates them. So yes, I think helping other individuals solve, whether it's a personal transformation they're making, professional transformation they're making, creating a community around them to support the changes that they want to make in their life through art.
Thank you. I believe there are many people who would like to follow your path. They love art. Of course, they might work in a company, they might work in a local government. What would you advise, Sonal-san, for those, who would like to maybe enlarge their portion of art or music or, food in their life? Where should they start?
They should start with themselves. They should have a deeper understanding and wisdom of who they are, what they love. And sometimes it means you have to unlearn to relearn.
I see. And in the process, as you said in your personal story, it would mean that, appreciating yourself, maybe loving yourself, and overcoming some of the past experience.
I do feel trauma plays a big role in our lives, and people need to understand that trauma can occur when you're at a red light and someone passes you off, and that's it. Your day is triggered because of that one individual that threw you off track from your routine. It happens on a daily occurrence, and many people feel that trauma needs to be something severe. No, trauma can be anything subtle that will trigger an emotion that is deeply connected to your childhood. And I feel that it's so important that you develop a ritual on a daily basis where you're nurturing yourself and balancing yourself, because the same way that I spoke to those 150 women incarcerated, and they all want to open a business, they all want to do all these amazing things. And I said to them, before you embark on that journey of starting your own business, you are in here for a reason, but you cannot go into the real world and start something new if you're going to be triggered. So you really need to understand your emotions and understand yourself. And that means going deep within to understand why you feel a certain way, psychologically, where are you? And recreating that blueprint that says that you should be a certain way and redefining yourself on your own terms.
Thank you. You mentioned the word synchronicity in your presentation. And at Globis, we teach Kokorozashi. And Kokorozashi is a personal mission for all our MBA students. So when they graduate, they will say, to us, to Globis faculty, and to their classmate, I want to do A, B, and C. But the notion of synchronicity, I think it is a hint that the, encounter or the atmosphere or maybe, trauma could be one that, we need to overcome. What is your advice for people looking to find meaning or their kokorozashi?
What makes you smile? What makes you happy?
Mm-hmm.
What makes you become present in that very moment where you're not thinking about yesterday and you're not thinking about tomorrow? Ask yourself those questions and find it in the small acts throughout the day, whether it's making tea or coffee or your favorite meal or going to your favorite place. How does that feeling invoke memories that's going to last you a lot longer than 10 minutes or an hour? And then you ask yourself, okay, how can I make this moment longer? What can I do to make this special? And then it becomes a form of exercise. So you want to lengthen that feeling, that mood by practice. And it does take practice, but then along with that, it takes discipline. It's doing something that you love does take discipline. And with that discipline, it means eliminating distractions.
Thank you. I'm an avid martial artist. I have been practicing Aikido for 40 years. And what Sonal-san says is true. When you are really into the martial art, what you're thinking is only present. There's nothing else. So thank you very much, Nir-san, Sonal-san, for your wonderful presentation and insightful advice in the
Thank you.
panel discussion.
Thank